Which I'm all for being weird, Barbie.
There's a lot more bidet people these days.
I mean,
They're cloning in Whole Foods.
well, oh no, they are not plastic. A curtain that was old in their house.
No way.
That is
No way.
I won't reveal who that was.
I mean, names. That's
We
amazing.
know who you are.
Welcome, friends, to the ecoChristian podcast. I'm your host, Caleb Cray Haynes, and we're exploring what it means to be Christian on planet Earth. Before we jump into this great conversation with my wife, Emily, literally on everything from household cleaners to house shoes, slippers, and the kind of products and companies we typically support in our homes and lives, I wanted to offer an update. So one of the original visions for this podcast is that it could serve as a greater platform and place for you to find out about Christian ecological resources and events. So for the episodes ahead, you'll be hearing me share some brief snippets with meaningful ways and resources that your church can engage in creation care. One that I wanted to share today comes from our partner, Arasha USA. And if you've lingered around this podcast for any length of time, you've been learning more about this international Christian conservation work. And Arasha USA has a stellar online social platform just for those of us who want to chat about environmental care and share what the rest of us are up to. It's called Love Your Place. It's a free online place to plug in and connect with others on the things we talk about in the show and the work of creation care and environmental justice in the world. So I'll link it for you in the notes, and I hope to see you all there. So let's jump in to this fun conversation I had with Emily.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, friends, back by popular demand is my wife, Emily JoAnn Haynes. Give it up. Give it up. How you doing today?
Well, we've been living in my parents' house for the last 2 weeks. Our bathroom is under construction.
Yeah.
We got a snow day the moment the kids went back to school from winter break, and it's Friday. So, and that may sound like a good thing, but
It's crunch time.
it's like a Monday.
It's crunch time in pastor world. So it was actually about a year ago around Christmas time that we did an episode together in the effort of giving folks a little bit of a behind the scenes into you and I's lives, home, and doings around, particularly around Christmas. I think we talked about the 12 days of Christmas, but kind of ended up getting into our value systems and practices in that. So in this episode, Emily and I are going to sit down. We're sitting down to talk about kind of some of our practices around buying things, brands and companies and bedroom rugs and things like that. If in your life, despite your best efforts, you still find yourself having to shop, stick with us here because this episode is called The Swap. It's pretty good, right? You're gonna have to give me.
Okay.
You're gonna have to give me something. So one thing I love about Emily is that she is ridiculously intentional, like everything else. She executes with extreme intentionality, which I love most of the time. But some of her spiritual gift is sort of challenging the rest of us with that intentionality, and it's good. And I remember. I don't know if you're gonna remember this, but I remember when we were dating. Maybe before we were dating, back when there weren't good coffee shop options, and we would drive all the way to Vanderbilt to go to the Starbucks over there. It was dark times. And so this is like 17 years ago or something. And we were talking about going to get coffee, which got us talking about the price of lattes and how at the time Starbucks had changed their prices to lattes to like $5.
No, it was like $4.
Yeah.
It might have been $3.
Yeah.
It was that long ago.
Yeah, it's like tripled since then.
It's $9 now for context.
Anyway, and you were like, I have a hard time spending money, that kind of money on, coffee when, I can't remember what exactly you said, but it was like when $5 could give someone clean water for a month.
I think it was for life. There was like this organization that I was working with, and it was like their stat was like $5. You donate $5 and that gives someone clean water for life. Because it was like they're drilling these wells, and each well serves so many people.
That might have been living water maybe, or one of those that, I don't know what it is exactly anymore, but at the time it was like $5. Yeah, which is crazy. And you think like...
Or maybe it was $4 because it was like the same price as the latte.
Right. And so since then, I haven't been able to enjoy a cup of coffee for like the last 17 years.
Yeah.
So, no, I'm just kidding. But it is very sobering to consider that, the things that we could be doing with just a small amount of, and I'm going to say intentionality for our conversation here. And so, so this kind of embodies in a way that kind of conversation that we're going to get into. And maybe it feels left field, but there's this verse that comes to my mind sometimes from 1 John 3:16, ironically. 1 John 3:16, which we should just memorize all the 3:16s, people, honestly. But 1 John 3:16, we know love by this, that he laid down his life for us, and we ought to lay down our lives for the brothers and sisters. How does God's love abide in anyone who has the world's goods and sees a brother or sister in need and yet refuses help? It's the word of the Lord. So bringing it all back around, right? This is everything, because how we consume in the world, how we shop, has everything to do with how we are loving our neighbors, our brothers and sisters in the world, and our non-human neighbors with creation. So we can get into all of that as well. But where do you want to start here?
I think you have to start at the why. So when you're talking about swapping, so maybe something that you normally buy for something that maybe costs twice as much, maybe 50% more, twice as much, in some cases 10 times as much, then you can actually buy something of kind of equal quality, perhaps, on the market. The kind of the question becomes like, why spend more than you have to? And I think this is kind of, as much as we may try to resist running households like capitalistic ventures, I mean, a lot does come down still for individuals to what the bottom line is. So if something costs more, then it may not be the first choice, because you have to have some sort of why behind paying more for something. So, I mean, I think in general, your podcast is trying to give a piece of the why to people, but I think that there's probably more in a practical sense to the why of why you might spend more money on something.
Yeah, I do think the money struggle is important to name, because I think that's one of the first flags that sort of waved of reasons why maybe more folks don't engage with ecologically friendly products, is because a lot of times they tend to cost more, or if they don't, that perception at least still exists. But I mean, obviously, if you're thinking like food, organic food is probably going to be, food that's good for you, and most products that are good for you. Again, kind of back to the theme of intentionality, right? More intentionality has gone into these products. That's cost a little more time and a little more effort from the people who grow these things or produce these things, probably. So, and so as a consumer, on a tight budget, which I feel like, everyone's on a tight budget.
Everyone's on a perceived tight budget, no matter how much money you make.
That's true. Yeah. So anyway, but especially for those of us, on a real tight budget. Yeah, so I think that
on a government validated tight budget.
Yeah. So I think that, I guess, has always been different, I suppose, in you and I's life, that even with, little resources, we've opted toward, I'm going to say, the organic milk, and
we don't buy milk, though. The organic, almond milk?
Yeah, the almond milk. Yeah. But the point is, and I suppose that's cost us other things along the way.
Well,
right. Because we're not buying great value Walmart brand. We're not shopping at Walmart at all. And so.
Right. Yeah. That reminds me, because we were staying with my parents, about a conversation we had at dinner the other night where my mom mentioned Walmart. And I said,
yeah,
what is something you can't get at Walmart? Yeah. As like a game. And then everyone shared what they thought you couldn't get at Walmart. And I don't remember all the responses, but
that was a setup.
They were pretty good. What did Story say?
Yeah, I don't know. You were like morality. Yeah.
Justice.
Yeah.
A living wage.
That's right.
Just
something in quality.
Yeah.
Yes.
Story said something really good. Daly said like nose hair.
Oh yeah. Can't get that. Yeah, it is like that. And so at what point, I guess, specific questions for, those of us to marinate on is, at what point does that change for you? At what point, because you're always going to be able to save more money without these eco-consumer values.
Right. So you are I think the point is to say, like, it's not that you don't have any values if you're not opting toward, the eco-friendly, and I'm going to include human and animal and nature-friendly products, because there is a lot of human slavery tied up in a lot of these choices. But it's just that maybe your value system hasn't tipped far enough away from money being the bottom line, which is the cultural norm. That is like our basis. When we grow up, everyone, if you grew up as an American, probably it's your base way of thinking of like the bottom line is the financial bottom line.
Yeah.
And so to shift your mind away from that takes no small effort to spend more on something that you could have gotten for less. So it goes back to the
right. And ironically, they're both ways to look at it is about conservation.
Right.
One is kind of, especially a generation that it was like, we're gonna cut out every coupon kind of thing, and we do all the coupons, right? But you do all the coupons.
Thank you.
You tell me where the coupons are. But speaking of our moms, I don't know how many times we've had that sort of conversation around. For us, it's about please no more stuff, and that's not really the way it's heard, is that, or how it's often responded is that, oh, it only costs $2, so
yeah, we're thinking like them, which is the bottom line is financial, and if it was, of course, it would be fine to receive their gifts of cheap goods, right?
Yeah, but we're thinking like, please, not another.
Yeah, stop buying things.
Spatula in the world. Yeah, no, you're thinking about this plastic thing that's going to last forever, or into the landfill, even though it's going to break in a month, and the carbon footprint
of the storage of things. I mean, generally, our parents' houses are much bigger than ours, and there's a variety of reasons for that. One of them is that we live in an expensive rural area, and so you only can afford so much house, and so you only have so much storage. And we basically organize our house as if it were a tiny house. And if you break it down per the number of people, we do live in a tiny house, because it's like, okay, 1,000 square feet divided by 4 people who live there, that's 250 square feet. Well, most individuals living in 250 square feet would describe their living as tiny living. So
tiny living.
Yeah. So anyway, maybe we should get into what you think is a why, like why someone would spend more.
Why someone would spend more money.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's what I wondered. I think that that's a question that people have to answer for themselves. Like, at what point do you allow that needle to move from one side to the other, right? And I think, obviously, for me and for you who are more hyper-environmentally aware, you've seen the graphs, you've seen the numbers. You would have to be some sort of robot or something, I think, at this point to live or shop differently, or not robot, but you know what I'm saying, like maybe someone without a brain. Because they're a heart. Maybe all the above. Courage. Wizard of Oz. I don't know. Just this. It's like I've seen too much.
Well,
on one hand, but I'm not gonna say that that's not a tough choice, because if you feel like you're actually having to choose between farmers market produce and some scenario I'm making up and enough food to actually make lunches for the week.
Well, and there's an intersection of so many different things that we're not accounting for when we just look at someone's choice. We're not accounting for, I can't wait for the day that I can go back to the farmer's market and buy produce at the farmer's market. And the base reality is while we have young kids, I'm just not going to have the schedule freedom to drive that far out of my way on the right day when the farmers show up at the market, because only when they all show up are the ones that I want to buy from there, because they're farming most of the week when I'm going to the grocery store to buy lunches. So I think you got to connect also the intersection of all of these different things, like time, but also like opportunity. And but I think that if I was gonna kind of address the why, I think there's like the negative why not, but then there's like several whys that get you in, which is one why maybe would be like someone's health. So if you care about your personal health, then you can opt into a lot of things that are good for the earth as well, because they're also good for you. So organic food or local food have the added benefit of being good for your health. If you spend 10 times the cost of what would be imitation vanilla flavoring to get real vanilla from the bean, even though it's a foreign import, it's like still, well, foreign, I guess Hawaii is, a part of the United States. But if you're going to spend 10 times that amount, but you're like, oh, it doesn't have these chemicals or things that might eventually cause cancer or make me sick, then it's more easy to opt into that because it's a smaller product that you rarely buy. So there's sort of like the health in, but I think another in that people start to appreciate, it's kind of like an emergent property of spending more money, is that you get more quality things that last longer. And so you actually start to enjoy things that are not breaking all the time, or not tearing holes all the time, or not, and you're not having to spend as much time replacing things that are broken.
Well, that's what we used to sell back in the day. Confession, when I used to sell cutlery, that was one of the things, because we sold Cutco, and while I loathe sales, I will still tell you that Cutco are the best knives out there. But they are so high quality. But that was our thing. Like, if you buy a set of knives, it's going to cost you over $1,000. So you can either buy this one good set of knives and you're done for life, or you can keep buying all the cheap knives.
Yeah. What? Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, and of course that's a familiar argument, quality versus quantity. But I think the other, maybe the thing behind the thing is not that I don't know that it's about that as much for all of us. I think for a lot of us today, it's actually about an addiction to certain ways of consuming.
Well, so there's the risk on the other side. So we've talked about like buying the cheapest thing, because the bottom line is financial. But I think on the other side of that, you have a very dangerous, an equally dangerous perspective where you just buy things because they're supposed to be green. It's like you've shifted your thinking from like buying the bad thing to buying the good thing. And even though this episode is called The Swap, I don't think we want to swap consumerism for consumerism. I think what we're trying to swap is we're not going to go out and buy this shiny new gadget because it is green, but we're going to replace the things that we have to buy to live, the basics in life, for options that value and that are caring for the earth and for the people of earth and for the animals on earth, for the air on earth and for the light pollution and all the different things. Like what we're swapping is a better world. We're not swapping a green thing for a non-green thing. And, it's kind of like, it's where companies get into this thing called greenwashing, which I don't know how much you've talked about greenwashing on here, but it's like companies marketing, oh, this is environmentally friendly. Like, for example, in our city, the natural gas company trucks drive around and it's like, environmental alternative to fossil fuels, and it's like, but that is a fossil fuel. Like, that's just marketing, or that's not a fossil fuel, but it is it's a dirty form of energy, and they're making it look like it's better to sell product, and we're falling for it over and over and over again.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that happens in all sorts of, I think we should do a whole episode on greenwashing, actually, but I think anytime, I mean, even if you like, say you go to McDonald's, which I don't know when the last, we haven't been to McDonald's in like 100 years, but, there's like, for instance, there's like at checkout, give $1 to help the planet or something,
Oh, do they have that?
I don't know. I think they've had that.
They
I don't know.
Have that at some places.
But this is just like, there are all these little small forms of greenwashing, I think, scattered throughout, like where someone's trying to get you to see, give attention to their product or buy their thing or make you feel better about something by leveraging, the environment. I mean, in a theological manner, all I can think about is this is also how we talk about taking the Lord's name in vain.
Totally. It's like,
but that's but in this stereo, if we're talking about the earth, right, we're talking about greenwashing and all the ways that. But I think that there is some nuance as well, because greenwashing is also about intention, maybe, and we don't know what. You can't read every company's heart on things, because obviously it's better to give $1 toward the earth than not, but you shouldn't be going to McDonald's in the first place, probably.
Right, but you're giving $10 to McDonald's, which is killing the earth, so really you're investing 10 times the amount in destroying the earth,
right?
And then feeling good about yourself because you rounded up to 11 or whatever.
The roundup. Yeah.
So anyway, I think we have to be careful of that, because it's like, the truth is we don't need probably like 50% of the stuff that we buy. There are some things we need, and that's what, like, to live, to exist, to survive. And then there's things that are sort of like Western cultural needs, if you want to, like, not be like weird Barbie on the hill, not be like which I'm all for being weird Barbie on the hill if you're up for that. But most people aren't up for that on day one. So, and hopefully we'll all get up and on the hill and be weird Barbie eventually by changing the culture. And
let's be weird Barbies
together. Anyway, so my point is that I would say for most of us, there are some basic things that we need and that we can pretty easily identify what our needs are, especially when we're not in a store looking at things that we want. They're sort of like socks and underwear and toilet paper, or maybe you don't need toilet paper depending on your situation.
What? That's an interesting situation.
Or you might use a bidet or something.
Oh, yeah.
They're sort of like the option.
There's a lot more bidet people these days.
Yeah. Anyway, so even some of that, I mean, I've heard of people who used washable toilet paper. So that's an option. But most people aren't ready for that, and I don't know that I'll ever be ready for that.
Yeah.
We did do cloth diapers for like 5 years. So I feel like we've sort of checked that box, and now we just buy good toilet paper. And that's the thing is, like, there's a swap for pretty much everything. There's a good swap. There's so many options out there of like new start companies or companies who've been doing it for such a long time, and they're ethical companies and you can trust them. And that's kind of like where so much of this greenwashing and capitalism has degraded our trust in companies. But I do think that ethical companies are sort of like the hope of a better world, because we need products. We need a way of commerce. Maybe you would disagree. We need a way to trade goods in order to survive. We can't grow bamboo and wheat and reusable diapers on our land.
Right. No one is going to be self-sustainable.
Yeah.
And hardly in that sort of manner.
And that we need each other, and that's built into the system. So what are the places that are keeping in mind toward not enslaving humans, not polluting the earth, not emitting unnecessary gas into the carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, and
Yeah, I think also, what's important to say underneath this, or is at least naming the myth of perfection, because there's no, you, at the end of the day, you're going to have a carbon footprint because you're a carbon being. We're humans who dwell within creation, on a planet, and that's that comes with its own footprint, and that's natural. Like, that's how God created it. And so I think it's important to say, like, this is not about shaming. It's not about inducing anxiety or any of those things. It's, it's meant to be the exact opposite. Like, that's like living into a closer relationship with the earth in a sustainable manner is nothing but life-giving. And at least as it's supposed to be, I'm going to say, as it should be. And so I think, that's important to kind of keep in mind as you're thinking about swapping products and that sort of thing as well. Yeah, and I would also kind of what you're saying, I think I'd take caution that while there's more and more options today than ever, I think in the eco-friendly space, that has kind of made it harder in a way to find maybe companies or products that are as trustworthy, perhaps, especially as more big box companies try to. That's a sure tell sign of greenwashing a lot of times when you see, the
Walmart brand.
Well, even Amazon,
certainly Amazon.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I mean, let's just name them.
Yeah.
They're all looking at the bottom line.
Right. Yeah. And so they're trying to come up with their own generic, eco, which I'm glad that they're challenged on it. But if you're actually wanting to make a difference with the things that you're buying, first step is look away from those companies.
Yeah, totally. And I think that the way to do that is not to get caught up in the spotlight allure of the greenwashed product. So like when you're in a store and you see something and you're like, we used to call it, remember when we were recycling and we didn't know if something could be recycled, and we called it like hopeful recycling. Do you remember
Wish cycling?
Wish cycling. Yeah. Wish cycling, like you put it in the recycling can hoping that it'll be recycled, but what it really does is it just destroys the whole bin of recycling once it gets to the center, because it pollutes it. It pollutes the stuff that can be recycled. And it's kind of like that, when you look at a product and it says environmental and you're like, oh, I hope they're being ethical, and I can count it, my conscience clear, because I have attuned to this point in my ethical, pyramid or something. But in reality, you should not be allure, should not get caught up in that allure, but you should really be looking for actual labels that are done by third parties that mean something. So like, for example, one thing I look for when it comes to companies is B Corps. So that's like a label that people put on their product.
B Corps?
Yeah, B Corps. And you can look it up to show what B Corps do, but they're known for, the website says measuring a company's entire social and environmental impact. And it's a label, it's a B, a uppercase B with a circle around it and a line underneath. And if you see that on a product, you know that the company that's produced that product is a B Corp, and it's gone through this external third-party testing and they have given that company the label, validating them as a company who has passed these rigorous social and environmental impact tests. So, you can look for that label, and that's a helpful thing. If it says Costco, environmentally friendly, whatever, window cleaner, it's like, okay, whatever, just ignore that. Ignore the messages. Look at the labels.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think there's so much here we could get into, and I'm sure there are a lot of questions that we're probably not addressing and problematic things that we're not thinking about right now and all of this. But I think generally that's a really good way to think about it, and that's a good resource, and we can put that in the show notes. Be interesting to get, I think, more into the nitty gritty of like, maybe some of your favorite companies or products or that we use frequently at this point, because I feel like at this point we've been using the same companies and products for the most part for a while, and there's a few ones that maybe get quote unquote swapped out at times.
Yeah, there is like a repertoire, and you do have to keep an eye on things because companies do change and get bought. So like, I used to love to go to Whole Foods. Now I hate to go to Whole Foods. It's owned by Amazon. They want to know your palm print. They want to connect it to all the data they're mining about you so that they can clone you one day. I can only guess, or whatever. I don't know.
You heard it here, friends.
I mean,
they're cloning in Whole Foods.
Well,
it's coming.
I don't know why Jeff Bezos wants my palm print, but it feels very Mark of the Beastie about it.
Yeah. TBH, don't like it. Yeah.
Every single app wants me to log in with my face. No thanks. Okay, so.
Oh man, yeah. Now thinking about that.
Yeah, no thanks. So I guess there are several really good old companies, and we can maybe start with those. But I feel like there's so many categories. Where should we start? We could say, do you want to just name like a room in your home that we can start in, because it's just so hard to.
Well, could we start with like cleaning products?
Cleaning is pretty easy. So my kind of go-to for cleaning and paper products, there's like a company, and then there's a company that's a distributor, and then there's companies within that distributor. So Grove is a subscription-based online company that only sources, they have their own values, which they list, but they value B Corps, they value sustainable, they value not using plastic, and then they'll list which of their values each product meets in each product description. And so everything on that site I wouldn't buy, because I try not to buy plastic when possible. But they have a lot of good options on there, and they're always adding new things. And they're also always collaborating with other things I use. So it's it makes more of the things I want more accessible from a single source. So the main thing that they produce that we buy is toilet paper and paper towels. So we don't use paper towels for us, but we use them in our Airbnb. And they have a pretty affordable bamboo, tree-free, but quality paper towel and toilet paper option. I want to say it's like $26 for 24 rolls or something. And if you know anything about bamboo toilet paper, at a slightly over $1 a roll, that's pretty good. And these rolls are really hefty and last about probably 3 times longer than just a normal kind of generic roll.
Unless you have an 11-year-old, then it's gone in a day.
Well, Yeah, so you got to account for that. But my point being is tree-free is really important. Grove sells that. It's pretty affordable. It's on a subscription basis. It doesn't come wrapped in plastic. They don't use plastic in their packaging at Grove. And so you get all your stuff in a box with paper. If they need to stuff it with something, they stuff it with paper. We also get our shampoo there. We used, and what is that called?
It's a bar. High bar?
High bar. We use High Bar because it is High Bar. It is the best. We use the green one. High Bar shampoo and conditioner. It's just the best bar that I found for all of our hair types. And they ship us that. They ship us, I don't know, razor.
Yeah, we get all sorts of stuff from there now.
Cleaning products. They also sell in tiny glass bottle concentrates of refills, cleaning products. So like window cleaner, it comes in a little glass bottle that's about an ounce. So you're not shipping water. You pour it into your own bottle and you fill it up with water.
Yeah, that's a huge environmental thing that we don't often think about is the water. And so that's why anytime you can get concentrates and just like do it at home, add your own water, that's immediately cutting down on a lot of major carbon footprints is, looking toward products that aren't shipping the water, basically.
Yeah, and since they come in little glass bottles and we recycle our glass, that's like recyclable forever, So it's almost as low as you can get as far as a footprint for that. The other place I like to go to for body wash, shampoo, hand soap, dish soap, that kind of thing is the Good Fill, which is a company that is semi-local, might be regional in our area, but I'm sure we actually have another store that's also a refill store in our area. So there's multiple ones in Nashville. So my bet and venture would be that if you live in a fairly decent sized city, there's probably a refill store of some type around you. You might have to do a little digging to find it. But what they do is they have big vats of, all of these different products that you use on your body or in your household. And you go there and you refill your own containers. You go to the register first. They weigh your containers and write the weight on them. And then you refill it with whatever product. And then that you pay per ounce or per whatever the thing is.
I feel like every community should have a fill store.
Yes. So, and the Good Fill also stocks up. I mean, I'd like to go there just to see what they have new because they're always stocking new products that are like environmentally friendly. So,
yeah, absolutely. It's a really fun place just to kind of look around. What was I going to say? Something about, I think it was about soap. I think that probably everyone in their community, you probably live in a neighborhood where somebody's making soap. And that's kind of one of those things too, that if you've got one of those local kind of soap, I know just down here from us, right, is also the Tribeca Urban Farm. They make soap. They've got, kind of things too. And so that's obviously a great choice. And, and proximity is always, of course, a factor when you're thinking about for a busy family. The other factor, right, I know that's probably what you're thinking is like, well, how many different places do I have to go?
Yeah.
If I'm driving here to get my soap, if I'm going here to get my bamboo toilet paper and driving over here, Well,
that was my idea about creating an eco mall. Like, I wanted to get all my stores that I have to go to every week in the same mall complex so that I could take all of my takeoff recycling. So the Good Fill, for another benefit, the Good Fill is in a partnership with TerraCycle. So TerraCycle is an online recycling organization that allows you to recycle things like old toothbrushes, razor heads. You can take printer ink to Staples, but there's a lot of things that they let you recycle that you can't normally recycle. So I can save markers that don't work anymore, or pencils or office supplies that are broken, and take them to Good Fill when I go to fill up my refillables, and they will send them off to TerraCycle to be recycled. And so it's kind of made it a double whammy to stop there. We individually and separately participated in a TerraCycle. They used to call them brigades. I think they're called campaigns now, but it's a it's a Kroger food packaging campaign. So we shop at Kroger a lot because it's our closest grocery store. And then we collect all of the soft plastic packaging from anything we buy, and we mail it to TerraCycle, and it gets remade, I believe, into like plastic playgrounds is what they remake that particular product into.
That's interesting. Yeah, I think, well, and again, I don't know if we've specifically named it, but part of what you're thinking about in all these products is where does it go when it dies, right? Or when it's over, or when you're left with the shell, or et cetera, et cetera. And I think kind of an interesting or timely conversation is this. Just last night, we were looking online because we're actually making our bedroom closet, half the size that it was. So we already have kind of the storage problem for the few clothes that we have, but now after this bathroom situation that we're doing, our closet is going to be half the size it already was. And so we're looking in bins online last night, and you're wanting like these kind of, imagine like a metal produce basket but to put on shelves in a closet for your clothes. And she's advocating for that, and I'm like going the opposite route. I'm thinking like, give me something like soft and like clothy, cardboard. Anyway,
yeah.
But we were both. It
was the same goal. Right. It was kind of like his. He could throw in the compost at the end of the life. Mine, you will never have to throw away because it is metal, and if you do it does ever break or something, you can put it in the metal recycling, which is...
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I guess that's true. Yeah. But I think that's kind of two ways to think about it is back to sort of the Cutco cutlery kind of thing. It's like, well, maybe part of our problem is that like we want it to last forever. And so not in the way of like planned obsolescence, but knowing that everything has kind of an obsolescence to it in the scheme of in the geological age of the earth, and so maybe it's not such a great idea that this thing or this thing or this thing is supposed to quote unquote live forever. Maybe I wonder what it looks like to advocate for more compostable or shelf life kind of products, depending on what we're talking about, obviously. So in the case of these like baskets that we're going to use to put clothes in, I think I'm okay if they're biodegradable or something like that, and that in 10 years maybe I got to get more baskets. Maybe that's the best decision, or maybe not. But I think that that's part of kind of thinking through it.
Yeah. Well, so let's talk about a few more products, which is what you said made me think of our kids and first I was thinking about clothing, which clothing, if it's ethical and if it's ethically made and produced not from plastic. So just for buying clothing 101, rayon is plastic. Polyester is plastic. If it does not say cotton, wool, eucalyptus,
hemp,
bamboo, hemp, there's a lot of natural materials they're making things from right now, but most of what we buy on the shelves for clothing is plastic.
Yeah.
And if it is not made from plastic, it does not last as long.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
And that's okay, because again, like what you were saying, styles change, and all those plastic clothes end up in a Goodwill at the best case scenario, worst case scenario in a landfill 6 months or a year after they're created with one or two uses, and it's just wreaking havoc. Not on our land, but on someone else's land.
Yeah. Well, also at the rate that we're producing goods, and particularly cheap clothing today, it was one thing 100 years ago, but now, it's far beyond just clothing our naked bodies. It's like
no. Well, of course, it's about fashion, and I don't want to I think there's a place for fashion because there's a place for beauty.
Yeah.
But I think that's where you have to get back to the why. Like, you know, I think that's a big, when it comes to clothing, slavery is a huge issue. The reason we have cheap clothes is because someone else has slaves. Like, that's just the truth. Clothing is not cheap or easy to make when it's made well. And so
I think that, you know, slave is a very strong word, obviously. But I think you're at it there. Is like someone's paying the price.
Yeah, it's not someone wealthy. It's not like someone subsidizing our clothing. It's someone poor who doesn't have options, who doesn't have opportunity, who doesn't live in America, or if they do live in America, they're not documented, and so they don't qualify for the protections of an American. And so that's where you get food injustice in Florida, you know, where you have immigrants working for pennies an hour to harvest food that's labor intensive. You know, so when you get to clothing, though, it's a very slavery, you know, my mom has a hard time getting why I will not accept her towels or her clothing that she wants to buy for our kids from, you know, Old Navy or the Gap or whatever, like notorious child labor offenders, you know. And I'm like, Mom, you're buying our 9-year-old pants, and a 9-year-old probably had to make these pants instead of going to school. Like, this is not okay. Like, I mean, I don't know, like, that a 9-year-old made these pants, but like, we know enough to know that there's nefarious and hidden known slavery happening in the clothing industry.
Yeah, and I think that the companies who are doing the work of doing it right, they're doing that in the you know, they're taking the opportunity to be more transparent. And so if you can't find out kind of the where it's from question, then that's probably already a bit of a red flag around should you support this company or not, because they're, you know, if they're doing it right, you're gonna know about it.
Well, and it is hard, like, and that's where it gets more expensive. So, like, for clothing, for the basics, my two things are organic, natural materials. So, organic cotton, wool, I mean, those kinds of things, and fair trade. So, there's another label you can look for on clothing. And even, you know, there's some fair trade certified stuff now at Target. It's not everything. You gotta look for the label, but there's a few things there. But
Target, though.
No, Target as a whole. I mean, but again, look for the label because there's, you know, they are being pushed to provide certain kinds of quality things. And I'm not saying it'll last longer because someone gets paid well to make it doesn't mean it's made from good materials. So those two combat together, and there's two main companies that I like when it comes to those things. Pact or PACT. I think the website might be Pact Apparel or Pact, something like that. They make basics, men's, women's, and home, organic and fair trade clothing, mostly from cotton. And then they do have some other things that they make certain more stylish things with. But we regularly buy socks, underwear, just basic things from Pact because they have those those things, and you can get them fair trade. And they used to have kids, they don't anymore, so I had to go out and find a kids company. And Mightily is a kids company that's a little bit congruent, I guess, with Pact in that it's a little bit less expensive. It's not like handmade in Los Angeles, you know, it's not like $1,000 for a kid's, you know, pair of pants or something. It's a little more affordable, but it's still fair trade and organic cotton.
Yeah. That's really helpful. Yeah, I think it's always, you know, and again, I keep kind of going back to the first part of our conversation and jumping back and forth because there is nuance, and, you know, I think anytime that you can be scrappy like choose Scrappy and be okay and be happy with Scrappy. You know?
Well,
So,
there's Scrappy that's bit me in the butt, though. I mean,
yeah,
agreed. But also, like, I'm not going to go to Goodwill to buy underwear.
sure. Well, Goodwill, I'm pretty sure doesn't sell underwear, but
No, they don't.
for obvious reasons.
But my point is, like,
Yeah.
there are some times that you go Scrappy and you regret it later.
Oh, sure. Yeah. And all that, these are questions only you can answer as you know how much time you have. And so it's all resources. You're going to pay for it or you're going to pay for it. And so you kind of got to decide, choose your adventure. And, you know, are you that kind of personality where, geez Louise, give you five minutes, a piece of fabric and a Swiss Army knife, you're going to like, and so, or not.
Yeah,
So
one of my more scrappy friends told me about how they made some underwear from a curtain that was old in their house.
No way.
That is pretty
No way.
impressive. I won't reveal who that was.
I mean,
but if you're
names.
listening,
That's
you
amazing.
know who you are.
love that so
You
much.
are a hero.
Yes. God sees you. Yeah. So anyway, so all that to say, now I'm going to flip back all the way to the other end of the spectrum, as far away from Scrappy as you can get. Because I want to talk for a second about West Elm.
Bougie
Because,
bougie environmentalism.
so I've been in there like one time, but you've mentioned West Elm multiple times. And when I think about West Elm, I think about...
So West Elm is a store, for those of you who are not aware.
Yeah.
They have them in our area. They may not be in every area.
In the bougie part of town.
In the bougie, across from Whole Foods.
Across from Whole Foods with a bunch of other things you can't afford.
Well, Pottery Barn, that's another one.
Pottery Barn, yeah. Bougie environmentalism, I like that. Anyway, but
yeah.
there are certain products that if you're going to try to find ethically made, environmentally friendly, the way I understand it is there's close to no options.
Yes, there are close to no options. And West Elm is one of the good options.
Okay.
So again, you want to look for labels. So they label their stuff fair trade, organic, natural, fibers. That's a different thing than natural as a general label. But West Elm sells a variety of fair trade and naturally made things like furniture, rugs, bedding, housewares, lighting. They have it's very expensive. Like, I've been saving up. I want to get us a new sheet set, and I've been waiting on it to go on sale. It never goes on sale. I haven't seen it on sale in like all year yet, but a new sheet set, the one I'm looking at, it's like very specific and special. It's made from eucalyptus fiber, which is one of the most naturally cool fibers. It's made in a fair trade factory. We have a king size bed, so it's the most expensive one you can get, but it's $175 for a sheet set, you know?
Right.
And then you're like, okay, I only really need one sheet set, right? Because we'll just wash them and put them back on. I don't really need two.
Becomes our Christmas present to both of our...
Yeah, it's our anniversary present is a new sheet set because it's so expensive.
Yeah.
Or that's expensive for us. That may not be expensive for someone else, and that's fine. But if you're going to spend $175 on sheets, go to West Elm. You know what I mean? Like, because there are good options there.
Yeah.
And they're buying from West Elm. I don't know everything about the company of West Elm, but I do know that I can go there and get things that have labels that mean something and that are third-party verified. And it's not just them like saying environmentally friendly, you know. And so we just refinished the original hardwood floors in our house, and we promised our daughters a rug. And West Elm has a good selection. I don't want to buy a used rug. First of all, I don't think used rugs are, as our daughter would say, that's a choice. Some used rugs are probably fine, but rugs they wear out, you know. They get used a lot, and I don't want someone else's dog slobber rug in our house.
You just bought 2 used rugs from someone on Facebook.
Okay, well, that's technically true, but they're like for in front of they're like bath mats, basically.
Got it.
A little bit different. Anyway, so I don't want to buy a used rug. A lot of the used rugs that you find on like Facebook Marketplace are actually new. They're just someone else peddling them. I don't know what the distribution off, what is, but a lot of them are just brand new, and they're mostly polyester. So at West Elm, you can get a natural wool rug that's handmade, that's also fair trade.
Wow.
And it is about 4 times as expensive, maybe 5 or 6 or 7. So
that's also a choice.
It's also a choice. And the truth is like, could I get a comparable rug for much less? Yes, I could. Yeah. But like, if we don't care about how we're living, then what is Christianity about anyway? Like, what do our values matter if they don't matter in the small things? If they only matter in like some sort of mental assent to like, I believe in God, but we don't care about how we actually live or how our actions affect anyone else, then like, that's not really...
Yeah. And I think that's the important point that can't be overemphasized time after time, is that the way that you choose to live in the world has physical, actual, tangible ramifications for your human and non-human neighbor. It's just always important to know that the way that the choices that you're making in the world is, ultimately about, like you're saying, interacting out of Christian values and loving your neighbor, even in the small, infinitesimal choices.
Yes. And I think the other part of it is kind of like, there's the front end of each purchase and there's the back end of each purchase, which the front end is kind of like doing your research around how products are made. And then the back end is doing your research around how the products are unmade. So like this rug that we're theoretically talking about that I haven't purchased, like theoretically when this rug does wear out, because rugs do wear out, they regularly wear out, what are the options for its reuse? Well, there's a carpet recycling organization not too far from us. We could take it there and pay to have it recycled. Or we can maybe cut it into pieces and put it in our compost because it's natural wool, which theoretically is compostable, right?
Yeah. I mean,
what are the options? It does degrade though. It will not exist forever one way or another.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like the back end is really important. And so like recently I was looking to purchase like a new pair of slippers, and I wanted to think about the back end of that product. And so I found a company, and I don't know if I'm saying it right, but Kyrgyz is the company I found. I did a lot of research, and there were some that were way too expensive for me, and these were pretty expensive, but I think I used like birthday money or something to like pay for them. They're made from hand with wool and leather, and that's pretty much all of the materials in them. So they're theoretically also compostable. I could just like throw them in there when they're done.
So that's a situation where I went the exact opposite, because I have been gifted house slippers like multiple times, and both times they like deteriorated within a short amount of time, and I was really frustrated and my toes were cold. And I ended up, I saw some friends who were using Crocs, insulated furry Crocs as house shoes, and I just had a light bulb moment. So I went that way, and I've had those for years at this point, and they are exactly the same still. So
yeah, well, and so mine also, I've had them about a year, and so hopefully they'll last a really long time, but I guess we'll see. That's part of the testing process on the backside. They're very well made and they're very thick, so they keep my toes warm. Wool is like naturally insulating both in cold and heat, so it's not like they're hot in the summer. They're perfect in the summer as well as the winter. So, and I wear them like hours every day. So it was a really good purchase for me, even though they were expensive.
It's great.
They should last a long time. So, okay. You want to do like a quick question answer? A speed round of like companies that we use for things we swap.
Swap speed round.
It could be a test for you. I could say what we want.
Okay.
Okay, let's see. I'll say something that a lot of people have in their house, and you see if you know what we buy as the replacement for that thing.
Okay.
Okay. Ziploc plastic bags.
Brown paper bags.
What's the brand?
What's the brand? I can see the box.
Okay. If you care is the brand.
If you care is the brand. Okay.
Everything If You Care makes is awesome. Everything is compostable, including the packaging. And it's not just compostable, it's home compostable. It's like one of those companies you can trust. If they're making it, it's good. Also, rubber is a natural thing. I don't know if you know that.
Is that if you care as if it's one word?
No, 3 words. If you care. So the end of the sentence is, if you care, buy this product.
I see what they did there.
If you care, buy this product. They make recycled foil, plastic wrap, paper bags, kitchen things, rubber gloves, that kind of thing.
Okay, speed round. We're still on.
Oh, sorry. Kids' backpacks.
I think they're like Patagonia or something, aren't they?
Yeah, we have one Patagonia and we have one Osprey.
Yeah.
And they are their life backpacks, we've told them.
Yeah. We bought, they both got their backpack around age 9, and we said, this is the only backpack you're ever going to get.
Sarah got hers when she was 5. She went to kindergarten.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So she's had hers. Yeah. She's in 6th grade now.
Seeing her with that backpack at age 5 was like, what is this Ninja Turtle? The thing is huge.
It was big on her, but she's had it now 7 years.
Bless her heart.
7 years. And she is in nowhere close to wearing that thing out.
Yeah.
Because it's a well-made backpack.
That's right.
What prompted us to do that is she had a backpack when she went to preschool, and it literally broke. The bottom of it broke by the end of her preschool year. And I was like, screw this. We have to buy a better backpack. So we bought them with laptop holders because they're going to need that one.
They're going to hate it.
Okay, lunch boxes.
Planet Box.
Ding. 1 out of, I guess 2 out of 3. Okay.
They're washable metal.
They're washable metal.
Zipper cases.
We
bought them used.
We bought them used, and we'd have them since Story was in 1st grade.
Some other kid's name was Sharpied on the inside. So he's probably a full-grown adult by this point.
They're 7 years old, and the company is still active, so you can buy replacement latches for about $1.50. And I've done that about once or twice because they do wear out the latches.
Planet Box.
But Planet Box are expensive at first. You can find them used, though, and they're perfectly good because they last forever. And we've been using those for 6 or 7 years. No end in sight. Okay, let's see. Dayquil.
You did buy some really cool things recently for medicine that are glass and refillable with little magnet dealios.
Yes. So the company is called Cabinet, like medicine cabinet, and they're very thoughtfully designed. So they're glass bottles with medicine on the inside. The lids are all different colors based on the medicine, what that's inside, and there's a magnetic label on top in case you want to swap containers. And not only are they refillable, they have paper pouches you can buy to refill them, but they have a lot of very common medicine cabinet options like Benadryl, Dayquil, Tylenol, stomach gas relief. It's just kind of the basics. But
good idea.
It's a pretty and they stack. They nest and they're magnetic, so they nest nicely.
People who design things that nest.
Yes.
Those people.
Okay, chocolate. What kind of chocolate do we buy?
I feel like, so I'm going to say I don't buy chocolate because I feel like our house is just full of residual sugar from everything that our kids bring home. Mm-hmm. But I have seen you buy maybe endangered species chocolate.
Yeah, there's kind of a chocolate. Any other guesses?
Not Hershey's.
Yeah, good guess. So chocolate, there's usually a chocolate section in the grocery store. That's the bougie chocolate section. Generally shop from there, but if it says fair trade, if it says organic, especially the cocoa, fair trade is an important one. Alter Eco is a brand that I've heard of it.
Yeah.
But
they're the ones with the truffles.
Yeah, we recently bought some truffles for a church thing we were doing, and I was very pleasantly surprised to find that the truffles, which came in what seemed to be one of those generic candy wrapper kind of plasticky packages. Oh no, they are not plastic. They are home compostable truffle wrappers.
How do they do that?
I don't even know how they made that material out of that because they're kind of foily too, you know. So yeah, I was really pleasantly surprised that they were home compostable truffle packaging. So
And delicious.
and very good. Okay, what about travel gear, like camping gear? What do we buy?
I mean, hopefully nothing. Yeah. I mean,
Says the person who has consistently bought camping gear every year
no.
since we got married. So
No. I buy
hopefully nothing.
one thing with the REI member points.
So REI.
So something from, yeah. But usually I'm looking for the kind of clothing we're talking about.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
the letters,
that's
REI is a store, REI, recreational equipment, something with an I, incorporated. What about if we're doing a renovation and we want to find something secondhand? Cabinets, doors, windows.
Definitely Habitat for Humanity, but I'm going to say on the side of the street as well, because
Yeah, that's true.
we are ridiculously good at finding things on the side of the street. I'm going to say it's kind of a family superpower.
Yeah, I inherited it from my father. Okay, I think that hits a lot of the companies. The backside is just like, how do you get rid of things? And there is one really important company that I've recently found that I'm really excited about called Trashy.
Okay, yeah, the clothing company.
Well, they're not a clothing company. They're a recycling company, but a recycling company for clothing.
Right.
So you have to pay to get what is called a Trashy bag. And then you fill up the bag and you scan it with your phone and you get the shipping label and you ship it back to them and then they recycle it. So this is, we donate whatever can be donated if we're getting rid of something like clothing wise or housewares wise material. But there's still a good amount of things like old rags and things that are just not worth donating. But you also hate to throw them away, especially if they could be recycled. And so you can put all your old nasty things in there, and they have a guarantee that 98% of what gets into them gets actually recycled.
That's really high. Yeah, well, that's really cool. Yeah, I think clothes and textiles are obviously huge. Yeah, I think all this is really helpful, and I'm going to try to put all these things in the show notes as much as possible. And, and I think at the end of the day, again, like the idea is not to shop more, not to consume more, but in the things that we do buy to be that there are options. There's really good options for some things, and to just get more curious about where something's coming from, and where's it going to go, and what do you do with it in your brief time with it. Yeah. Any last things that you feel are important to add or say around either the posture of the swap or anything you feel like we missed?
Well, I think that probably one thing that could be said is that it takes some time to adjust to the cost of things. If you can focus on the next thing that you're going to need and go ahead and do the research on it, that will help you plan to pay for it, because some of these things are so expensive, you kind of have to plan to pay for them. And you might hold off on buying some things you don't need in order to buy the thing you do need. That will be the ethical thing, the thing that will last you. But starting slow, because it does just take time to adjust to spending more money on things. And I'd say the other side of that is just not buying the things you don't need, and so that you will have the financial resources to buy the things you do need. And then the other thing is like, what were you saying earlier? Like, be not thrifty. You used scrappy.
Yeah.
There's like scrappy ways to do a lot of things. So like sometimes if I'm trying to save up for something that I need, I might take the girls' old clothes to a consignment store. And it's kind of annoying because it takes more time and it's whatever, but I can kind of like get a little bit of money that way and pay for something I want to buy new. And it's still like engaging in the cycle of giving those clothing the opportunity to be used again by another child while I'm making a little bit of money. So there's opportunities to be scrappy, sell stuff on Facebook Marketplace. We just resold a toilet rack above the toilet rack that we bought.
Yeah, I was surprised anyone bought that.
And it sold quick. It was like, we bought this above the toilet rack like 17 years ago, maybe 15 years ago, something. And it sold like in a day on Facebook Marketplace because we don't need it anymore.
There we go. Cool, friends. So much to marinate on here. So many different things. Obviously, we might have to do another part to get into some more details, but we'd love to hear feedback from you guys listening to this and what other questions that maybe we didn't answer, and maybe there could be a thing there. Yeah, any last words of wisdom or parting? All right, well, we did it. We covered it. Awesome.
Thanks, y'all, for being a part of this fun episode. Please hit that subscribe button, share with your friends, and let's do the work together. Grace and peace.